think we should be good to go. All right. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for January 27th, 2020. Qs were gapping down in the pre-market. You see here still down 2% as we are pretty close to the open here, just a little bit above it. But pretty good size gap down in the market, but not necessarily big enough to break the uptrend here to really damage the uptrend. Because as you can see here, if we were to rally from here, this would still be a higher low that we would be kind of moving up from. So the uptrend is still intact, although it is starting to come into question. Now, coming into today, we did have a short-term bearish bias, right? We acknowledged that this was an engulfing bar, a gap berry, in fact, which is one of our favorite kind of reversal daily bars, not only for the market here, but also to be played on the day of the reversal intraday. But we noted that and expected us to come in. Now, I didn't expect us to necessarily gap down as much as we did today, but we did kind of notice the weakness, notice that the hourly trend was already breaking here going into the end of the day, so that gave us a reason to have a bearish bias in the short term coming into today. Now, like I said, weekly and monthly could still just be, doing a bit of a pullback here. So I think we're going to have to wait and see on the market. Okay, so I'm going to be going neutral going into tomorrow. Okay, because we got a gap down to support. I think today's narrow body bar and relatively narrow range also gives us a good starting point to see, is the market going to be able to establish a range and then break out or break down. So neutral going into tomorrow. Okay, so we'll see. And the good thing is we'll have lots of gaps to focus on, right? So I'd like to see something additional from the market before we initiate the next bias, because you can see, of course, short term we've been weak, long term we've been strong. So time frame conflict, gonna let that work itself out a little bit until we get a little bit more alignment. All right, and then we'll see if we get maybe some kind of breakout high or breakdown. Okay, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. Okay, because we had some very nice breakouts and especially breakdowns today that I want to take a look at. Okay, so first we'll go over the official plays. So if you're in the room today, there were two plays from me. All right, one was on the ABBV. Okay, the first one, I was looking for a breakout higher. Now, we did get higher prices. We did get this breakout here, but I was looking for much higher prices, and we did not go as far as I would have liked. Looked nice, had a good start there, and as it broke out the range, and I was looking for more follow through based on the fact that it was gapping above most of this red bar here, but it was not able to get to our targets, and therefore, right, came down and took out the stop, and we were out and done with it. Man, that's fine. Look at where it closed. I'm glad to be done with it there. Now, going into the afternoon, okay, we had a nice setup on this TCO. This was actually found in the morning by a room member, and this setup here, what I thought was very, very nice, and then even gave a secondary entry. So once we got that secondary entry, right, we were ready to play it. So this was the second call of the day, a short on the TCO. Okay, nice 15-minute base breakdown, right? So you can see the entry under 29.45. That was the low right there. I wasn't too concerned with this 43. We based here long enough. I didn't want to wait for 43. I didn't want to get filled any later because I was afraid if it goes, it's gonna go. And you can see target one was 29.25, and the second target, which we definitely got to pretty quickly there, and the second target was to be determined essentially end of the day, because as we got going, we were going to be at multi-year lows. So I wasn't too worried about support coming in on this. So I wanted to be in it till the end here. We did just close it, just I don't know, maybe 5 minutes before the close or something on that last bit on the TCO. Okay, this base breakdown I thought was really, really nice, and as somebody else put it in the room, right out of a textbook. Okay, it's not the only one. We also had the SEDG. They didn't play this one, but look at that tight consolidation. Base breakdown was on the list prior to going to lunch, right? I decided to pass because I thought there's some support here on the left. This didn't seem to care about it at all. Broke right through and then stayed at the lows, closing here at the lows. Look at that nice tight consolidation, right? You know, sometimes I think we do need to be reminded of how nice patterns can be. And I fall into that trap sometimes where, you know, you see some sloppy stuff work really well, and you think, okay, you know, that there was a breakout there, I should have played it, right? And then you start to compromise, and sometimes you start to take less than ideal setups, things that you know are starting to push the definition of your entry pattern, right? And sometimes when we get stuff like this, we just need to be reminded of how good the setup can be, right? And so, you know, you take a look at that and you say, okay, those are the breakdowns. What about breakouts, right? And I thought what we got on Friday was a pretty decent breakout. Now, one thing you can note here in comparison to those breakdowns on this breakout that we played on Friday is that these bars aren't quite as nice and tight, right? And we'd actually been in it since the open and we had to live through all of this sloppiness, right? But nice base consolidation and then right off rising 20. Similar to how TCO based up until it tagged the declining 20 and then rolled over. So that's the gold line on both charts, okay? And a pretty pain-free trade, right? You couldn't really have lost money. It was almost impossible to lose money on this breakdown. Okay, so that was the play. You know, very, very quickly. I know we kind of we had a hard time with the ABBV this morning, but you know that was quickly recovered just as soon as this TCO started going. So that was a nice slow recovery at the open. And I told the room too in the morning, you know, as this ABBV, I like the gap, I like the relative strength. It's gapping up when the market's gapping down. The thing that I'm least proud of when it comes to this play is that I don't think this setup was all that pretty. Okay, I'm not trying to make excuses for why the play didn't work or anything like that, right? I definitely took it, and I know it didn't follow through, right? And I don't have a problem with that. I think the idea was sound. I just wish we had gotten a little bit tighter of a setup, you know? And of course, at the open, I'm thinking, if this gets going, it's breaking out above the opening range, I want to be in it. But, you know, when you look at that and you compare the way that it's set up on the 1 and the 2, and then you compare it with some of these other bases that we got, I mean, this is a really sloppy base, right? And you compare it with something like the SEDG, right? There's really no comparison. So, you know, really some really nice setups I thought today, and especially if you caught that TCO here at the close. I know quite a few people did, because when I called it, like here, I think it was over an hour before it triggered. So that's like plenty of time. You know, unlike a lot of stuff at the open, which triggers right away, and sometimes people can miss it, right? Even if I, you know, get it into the box within time, you know, this was sitting in the box for at least typed out in the announcement box for over an hour. So glad that played out. I think we'll have plenty more trading happening here over the rest of the week. Here it's just Monday. Usually Monday is the lightest. Friday is maybe the next lightest, but I think there'll be plenty to look at, plenty to do moving ahead. If you didn't get a chance to kind of catch today's open house, right, it's going to be all week. There's a link in the description. Once you register, that gives you access to the other emails that go out related to the plays. So make sure that you register. That way you can trade with us for the rest of the week. Okay. All right. Hope you did well today. If not, we'll be back at it tomorrow. We're going to be neutral going to the market, and we'll see what we get. Thanks a lot. Have a good evening.